It began in one of England's quietest corners, a village so peaceful that people still left their doors unlocked. But beneath that calm lay a darkness that would tear a family apart, a devoted mother, a home built on love and trust, and a single night that turned it all into horror. 3 decades later, her killer is still out there. This is the real, haunting story of Janet Brown, and the mystery that refuses to die. If you love true crime stories that reveal the darkest secrets hidden in plain sight, make sure to subscribe before we begin. In the heart of the English countryside, where rolling hills meet ancient farmland and neighbors greet each other by name, a shadow has lingered for 30 years. This is the story of a brutal murder that shattered a peaceful community, devastated a family, and left detectives searching for answers that never came. Tuesday morning, April 11th, 1995. Builder Nick Marshall and his son arrived at a large farmhouse on Spriggs Holly Lane in Radnage, a quiet village tucked deep within Buckinghamshire. They were there for renovation work, a normal job on what should have been a normal Tuesday. But as Nick stepped from his van, something felt off. The sharp cry of a burglar alarm pierced the still morning air, echoing across the fields. It had clearly been ringing for hours. No one had silenced it. Approaching the window, Nick peered inside, hoping for a simple explanation. What he saw would stay with him forever. At the bottom of the staircase lay a woman's body, motionless. Her name was Janet Brown, 51 years old. Nick's hands shook as he called emergency services. Within minutes, Radnage, a place known for its quiet charm, became the center of one of Britain's most disturbing murder cases. To understand what happened, we must first understand who Janet Brown was. Born in Southampton, she was described by everyone as kind, gentle, and deeply caring. After training as a midwife, she devoted her life to helping others, eventually becoming a research nurse at Oxford University's John Radcliffe Hospital. Janet's life revolved around her husband Graham and their 3 children, Zara, Roxanne, and Benedict. Family meant everything to her. Her daughter Zara later said their mother was the steady heart of the home, always there, especially when their father's work took him abroad. The Browns lived on an 11-acre estate surrounded by quiet woods and winding country roads. Their home was secluded, the sort of place where stars filled the night sky and silence ruled the evenings. But that tranquility had recently been shaken. A string of burglaries had swept through the area, and Janet, ever cautious, had joined the local neighborhood watch. She even installed panic alarms throughout the house. She did everything right, and yet, she would be found dead in her own home. Let's go back 24 hours, to Monday, April 10th, 1995. Janet went to work at the hospital as usual. It was a normal day. She left at the end of her shift, said goodbye to her colleagues, and drove home. The family had recently accepted an offer on their house. A new chapter seemed close. That evening, plans changed at the last minute. Roxanne, her youngest daughter, decided to go out to celebrate a friend's new driver's license instead of staying home. Graham was away in Switzerland for business, and Janet spent the night alone, something that happened often. But on this night, it would be fatal. At around 8 p.m., she took a call from one of Roxanne's friends, her last confirmed contact while alive. By 8:20, when builder Nick Marshall called to confirm the next day's work, there was no answer. At 9 p.m., Graham tried calling from Switzerland. Again, no reply. By 10 p.m., a neighbor passing by heard the house alarm blaring. 20 minutes later, it fell silent. Inside, the internal alarm continued to scream through the empty house. Unheard. When police arrived the next morning, they found a scene that defied understanding. Janet lay at the foot of the stairs, hands cuffed behind her back, her face and hair matted with blood. Brown parcel tape had been wrapped tightly around her nose and mouth. She had suffered devastating head injuries, struck repeatedly with a heavy object, likely a crowbar or similar tool. Yet nothing of value had been taken. She was naked, gagged, restrained, but there were no signs of sexual assault. In her bedroom, her clothes were neatly folded beside the bed. Her dressing gown lay on the floor, as if she'd been preparing for bed when interrupted. Every drawer in the house had been opened and searched, but nothing stolen. Whoever did this came prepared. They brought handcuffs, tape, and glass-cutting tools. They first tried to cut a hole in the patio door, then, when that failed, smashed through it, making a noise that could be heard across the countryside. Why go to the trouble of cutting glass quietly only to shatter it seconds later? Why bring restraints to a burglary? Why kill so brutally yet take nothing? Detective Superintendent Mike Short, a veteran of nearly 3 decades, said he'd never seen a case like it. The timeline was narrow. Janet was alive at 8 p.m., missed calls at 8:20 and 9 com, alarm triggered around 10 gone. Within those 2 hours, she was attacked and killed. Somehow, she managed to hit one of her panic alarms, either upstairs by her bed or downstairs by the front door. But no one came in time. Police launched a massive investigation. Forensic teams combed the house and fields inch by inch. Thousands of witness statements were taken. Every possible lead was followed. For Janet's family, grief mixed with disbelief. Her daughter Roxanne recalled seeing her mother's face on every newspaper, their private nightmare suddenly public. She carried unbearable guilt, believing that if she'd stayed home that night, maybe her mother would still be alive. Or maybe there would have been more victims. The post-mortem confirmed the brutality of the attack. Janet had been forced onto her back, handcuffed, and suffocated as she was beaten. The key to the handcuffs was found beneath her body, a chilling detail. Even more disturbing, evidence showed the killer washed their hands inside the house before leaving. They didn't panic. They didn't flee immediately. They stayed. Calm, methodical, cold. Everything about the scene made no sense. No forced theft, no clear motive, only precision and rage. Months later, police revealed the intruder had used a special weatherproof tape, the kind sold only in small quantities for greenhouses. Just 300 rolls existed in the area. Investigators appealed to anyone who remembered selling or buying that combination: handcuffs, glass cutter, tape. Detectives also knew the killer would have been soaked in blood. Someone must have noticed, a neighbor, a friend, a coworker, that night or the next morning. 10 months later, an anonymous man left 2 voicemails for police. His tone, his details, too precise to be a hoax. He seemed to know something real, but he never called back. His identity remains a mystery. In June 1996, a 47-year-old man was arrested and questioned, but later released without charge. The case grew cold. The Brown family never returned to their home. Roxanne moved to London, finishing school while living with her sister Zara. They installed bars and security systems wherever they lived. The sense of safety most people take for granted, gone forever. Years passed. Leads dried up. But in 2015, 2 decades later, a breakthrough came. A new forensic review recovered male DNA from the crime scene. It didn't match anyone in the national database of 6 million samples, meaning the killer had never been caught for any other serious crime. Still, it was something, a thread of hope. Detective Chief Inspector Peter Byrne said, "Somebody out there knows who killed Janet. We just need a name." Over 1,000 men were tested and eliminated, but no match was found. In a public appeal, Janet's daughters spoke with heartbreaking clarity. "Our mom's murder was planned and brutal. She was killed in our family home, a place where we should have been safe. Please, if you know anything, come forward. Crime Stoppers offered a $20,000 reward for information leading to a conviction. Police urged the public, even if the suspect was deceased, relatives' DNA could still reveal the truth. Today, more than 30 years later, the countryside of Buckinghamshire looks unchanged, peaceful, quiet, untouched. But the question still echoes. Who killed Janet Brown? Roxanne, now in her 40s, still lives with the consequences. She never runs alone, never leaves doors unlocked, and always tells someone where she's going. The fear never truly leaves. Janet Brown was 51 years old, a wife, a mother, a nurse, a neighbor who spent her life helping others. She dedicated herself to keeping her community safe, and yet her own home became her grave. Somewhere out there, someone knows the truth. A detail remembered, a name whispered, a secret that could finally bring peace to a family that has waited far too long. It's time for that secret to surface. It's time for justice. If you believe stories like Janet Brown's deserve answers, subscribe, share, and help keep her memory alive. Because sometimes, the only way to bring light to darkness is to keep telling the story.